we have covered organizations and licenses, and we are going to spend our remaining time in eHoldings, agreements, the dashboard app, and then I'm going to briefly demonstrate the public license terms integration with Classic Publication Finder, just so everybody can kind of see what that looks like and if it might be a good fit for your library. So here we are in the eHoldings app. The eHoldings app is another interface through which you can interact with the EBSCO knowledge base. So prior to Folio, you may have been used to going into EBSCO admin and holdings management to select new packages and titles and manage your holdings in that way. And there are still things like bulk uploads and downloads and holdings management reports that you still definitely do want to go into the eHoldings, or excuse me, into holdings management to access. But a lot of the day-to-day work that you would normally have done in holdings management can be undertaken in the eHoldings app. There is an API connection between holdings management and your Folio tenant by way of the Holdings IQ API. And so your implementation consultant would have helped set up that live connection. I'm connected to a demo site at this point just to kind of demonstrate the functionality here, but you should be linked up if you're live on ERM to your specific instance of holdings management. You may have heard it called HLM and Folio. What that API connection means is that if I select a package in the eHoldings app, that package will automatically be selected in holdings management and vice versa. It's a real-time connection between the two.
Molly, just
Yes.
if you click on the eHoldings and you get a message saying unable to grant access, you need to have it properly set up by your implementation consultant.
Yes. Yep. So your implementation consultant would help set that up. The only other time that that may happen is, and I know we've got some people from the 5 colleges here. There is the ability to hook up more than one knowledge base to a single Folio tenant. So in 5 colleges, they have 5 separate subscriptions to EBSCO Holdings Management. So 5 separate kind of holdings that they're working with. They can establish all 5 of those in Folio and then use something called assigned users to say, okay, Julie only works for UMass. So I only want Julie and Tom, who also works for UMass, to be able to go into UMass's eHoldings. And then Stacy and Patty work for Amherst College. So they're going to be assigned to that knowledge base. So if the only other time that that might happen is if you have multiple knowledge bases within the same Folio tenant and you are not assigned to any of those knowledge bases. So it can be one of those two. If it's not set up, you would get that. And then if you are not assigned to an eHoldings knowledge base, that may also happen.
There's
So
a
I would,
third option, Molly. Sometimes, particularly in implementation,
Mhm,
you might turn on a sandbox eHoldings app,
mhm.
which isn't your real holdings at all, but shows you how eHoldings works.
Yes, but with that, if it's your only knowledge base and there aren't specifically assigned users, you should still be able to get into that. That's
Oh
what's
yeah,
happening
right.
here.
Mm-hmm.
And Buddy, I saw a question from you pop up in the chat. In your settings under eHoldings, right here, I can see Sandbox listed here. If I click on where it says Sandbox, this is where that setup is done to configure your Folio tenant to hook up to your holdings management. So you have an API endpoint, your customer ID, and then an API key provided by EBSCO. And so your implementation consultant can help get that set up for you. And then in the case where you have maybe like 5 colleges, 5 separate knowledge bases, you can use this new option to establish a subsequent knowledge base. And that's when you would want to use this assigned users feature to assign the right people to the right knowledge base. You can see here, I don't have assigned users because this is a single knowledge base. So anyone who logs into this tenant that has eHoldings permissions should be able to just click on the eHoldings app and access it. All right. So getting into eHoldings itself, on our left-hand side, we once again have our search pane, and this is divided into providers, packages, and titles. So providers, these are going to be maybe your vendors. So if I look at EBSCO, I can see two providers that contain EBSCO in their names. We have EBSCO with a total of 658 packages in the EBSCO knowledge base, and EBSCO open access list that has 25 packages. From here, I can see how many of those packages are selected in my particular folio tenant. So if I were to open this record, I can see the high level information about my provider. And then I can also see at the bottom here, my package list. Anything that's green is selected, and I can see the number of titles in a particular package here. And then anything gray is not selected. Quick pro tip, if you wanted to see just the selected packages that you have for a given provider, you can use this magnifying glass icon, click on it, and then under selection status, you can click selected and search. And this will limit just to these 23 packages that are selected with EBSCO as the provider. Now, if I were to click on one of these packages, maybe Academic Search Alumni Edition, this is going to route me directly to my package record. This is where I can see the number of selected titles out of the total. I have an option here to add all titles to holdings. So if only half of this package had been selected and I wanted to select the rest, I can use that. There's also that action duplicated here in the actions menu. I also have the ability to remove this package from my holdings or to edit the package. And we'll look at that in a little bit. On the provider page here, we have our package settings if we want to show the titles in our package to our patrons, if we want to automatically select new titles that become available in the package, and then our proxy settings, whether it's inheriting from the root proxy or if it has its own proxy established on the particular package. This is where we have the ability to link a package to an agreement, which we'll look at together momentarily. And then we have the ability to add notes here. And you can see this has the assign, unassign, as well as the ability to add a new note. And that mechanism is much the same, where you're selecting your note type, entering my note details, and then saving to this package record. When we add notes in the eHoldings app, those are staff-only notes that are available in Folio specifically. Those do not carry over into Holdings Management. So if you were to log into Holdings Management and look at this package, you would not see that notes as these types of notes are Folio-only features. When I continue scrolling down, I can see my titles. All of the titles that are included in this particular package. I have that same option here. So if I wanted to see, maybe what's not selected here. So what we might have here is a little bug in the display here because it looks like 3,680 are selected here. But I can filter, search and filter. So if I'm looking for a particular title within a package, I could look for that.
Molly, can you explain a little bit about how these holdings in eHoldings are connected to your holdings in EDS?
Yes. So in your, so HLM is kind of the back end of Publication Finder, or what some people might consider your A to Z list. So if I'm looking for, and this is a different demo EDS, my training environment was just set up a week ago and doesn't have its integrations available yet. But my demo university EDS is hooked up to the Folio environment used for sales demos. And so if you click on publications here in your EDS, this takes you to Publication Finder. And so you can see things broken down by discipline, and then you can also search various library publications here. So the titles that are appearing here are the titles that you can search for in Publication Finder here. So the holdings that you're managing there are surfacing in Publication Finder, and then depending on kind of the agreement between EBSCO and certain metadata providers, we have the concept of partner databases, where those vendors would provide their metadata to EBSCO to index in EDS as well. So that is a very high level explanation. I will say that I do have counterparts on the training team that specialize more in our SaaS products, like Publication Finder and EDS, that can give much more in-depth trainings. And if you go to EBSCO Connect, they host a lot of public trainings as well. So if you really want to kind of dive into EDS administration and holdings management from an EBSCO admin standpoint, I would highly recommend going to those trainings, where folio trainings are kind of more what's happening on the folio side of things. But that is kind of the 10,000-foot view of how what you're doing in folio is impacting what's happening in your public interfaces like Publication Finder and EDS. And so heading back into eHoldings, if I click on a title here, we're taken to what's called a resource or a title in package record. So you'll notice here that my title is BMC Medicine, but this is the specific BMC Medicine record that is accessible via Academic Search Alumni Edition. If I were to click on the title name itself here, this brings me to my kind of generic title record. So it has some higher level metadata information about the title itself, and then it shows all of the packages in the EBSCO knowledge base where this title is available and its selection status in each of these packages. So you can see we've got a little bit of overlap in this title where we have access to it through Academic Search Alumni Edition, Academic Search Premier, Biomed Central, and so on and so forth. So this title record is what would happen if I were to search for the title here. So I'm going to kind of reverse engineer this now, where if I search for BMC Medicine as a title here, and I click on my result, I'm brought first to the title record. Then if I were to click on the package, I'm now in that resource or title in package. So this specific title in this specific package. And then I can backtrack all the way back to package, and then all the way back to provider. So you can kind of, depending on how you want to start your search, you can start from a provider and work your way more granular, or hey, I just bought this specific title. I want to search for the title and then select the package in which I have been granted access to this specific title. So let's talk about actually selecting that. I'm going to go back to my eHoldings app search, and you'll notice that we've got some shortcuts here. When I click on eHoldings and I expand downwards, I can return back to my search screen. I can see shortcuts that are available, and this is becoming more and more prevalent across the Folio platform, being able to navigate through the apps via shortcuts. You can submit a KB content inquiry. This might be something that you're used to from EBSCO admin, where if you have purchased something and you're having a hard time finding it, or it doesn't exist in the EBSCO knowledge base, you can go ahead and submit a KB content inquiry so that our knowledge base team can work on getting that added to the knowledge base for you. And then very important, EBSCO system status. So the eHoldings app, because it is a direct integration with holdings management, the eHoldings app is also subject to kind of the same maintenance schedule and would be impacted by a holdings management outage as well. So if you are ever working in the eHoldings app and you're getting some weird behavior or errors, but the rest of Folio seems fine, I would highly recommend clicking on EBSCO system status here and seeing if there is any sort of service alert for holdings and link management. Right now, things are looking operational, but you also have the ability to subscribe to updates here so that if there is maintenance or if there is an outage, you'll get notified of that as well. So that's kind of unique in the eHoldings app, where its operational status is linked to holdings management in a way that the rest of the Folio platform is not. So let's say that I just did a big order through Alexander Street. I'm going to come into Alexander Street.
Can I ask a question? Maybe so maybe you'll get to this, but where can you see the coverage of a packet, of a title in a package?
Oh, yes. Yep. So we will come to that. I will show you that in just a moment.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So under packages here, I can see what Alexander Street has provided. And let's say that I just subscribed to Alexander Street Drama. My order came through. So now I want to select this and make this accessible to my patrons. I click on my package and I add my package to holdings. When I do this, I'll have a chance for remorse if I need it. And so I'm going to add the package, all titles to holdings. And you'll see now this selected all of my titles. So all 7,270 are now selected out of a possible 7,270. And sometimes it takes a moment for my titles to load here, especially if there's quite a few of them. So I'm going to go ahead and just refresh and see if that and you always hope in these, live environments that it hasn't taken an early weekend on you. But you can see here now all of my selected titles. So let's say, and these are, I believe, streaming video. So this might not be the best example here for coverage, but you can see coverage settings are here on my resource or title and package record. And so I have my managed coverage date is 1988. If this were a journal, this would likely be a range that you'd be seeing. But if I were on my specific resource record or title and package record and I had custom coverage that I wanted to apply, I can hit actions and edit. And then I can select custom coverage and then enter. If I have multiple date ranges, I want to enter them in descending order. And then I can dictate my coverage display. Do I want to display my dates or do I have a coverage statement that I would like to display instead? And so that is all dictated through the editing of your resource or title and package record. All right. And so let's say that some time has passed and I am no longer subscribing to Alexander Street Drama. Or maybe I have ended this and I'm just subscribing to a couple of individual titles. From my package record, I can hit actions and remove from holdings. I have my chance for remorse, but I'm going to say yes, remove. So at this point, my selected titles have now updated to 0. But if I wanted to re-add a particular title, I can, if I just wanted, 13th God, I wanted to select just this title, not the whole package. I can click on that particular title. I'm brought to my resource record. And a good indicator, if you say, I don't know if I'm on my title record or if I'm on my resource record. So I don't know if I'm on the generic or if I'm on a specific title and package record. If you have a package listed here, that's a good indicator that you're on the resource record. And if resources appears in your URL, that means that you are on a specific title within a specific package. If you were to click on 13th God, you'll notice that there's no package up here. All of my packages are down here. And then in my URL, title is listed here. So those are just kind of some visual indicators, because for me personally, I can find it gets a little disorienting if I've been navigating around eHoldings. So that can help kind of ground you a bit. So if I go, yes.
Is there a place where you can see the coverage dates? An HLM search result list includes these coverage dates. And is where in eHoldings could you see that? So if you have some kind of journal and it's in 17 packages and you want to see the coverage.
Yes, so that would be on the resource record itself. And I'll take a look at a journal in just a moment. I'll head there. I just want to add this title specifically to really quickly, and then I'll go to a journal example where we can take a look at that together. So if I just want to add a single title here, I can come to my resource record and I can add this to my holdings. So now if I were to go back to my Alexander Street drama package, I have one title selected out of the over 7,000. So you can add specific titles. You can also add specific packages to your holdings and remove in the same way. Now, if we wanted to take a look at a journal, just doing a quick journal search here. So if I wanted to see the coverage in a specific package, I would search my journal and then I can compare. I can look in academic search complete. My coverage is going to be January 1st, 2010 to the present versus academic search ultimate, which has the same coverage settings. These coverage settings will also carry over into the agreements app, which is where we are going to go next. But the best place to find this information is always going to be on the resource record. It won't be on the title record because different packages might have different coverage. So, maybe EBSCO has January 2010 to the present, and a ProQuest package has May 2010 to the present. So you're going to always want to look on the resource record rather than the title record, because that will tell you about the managed coverage within a specific package for that specific title. All right. So that has been a bit of a whirlwind tour through the eHoldings app, but the best thing to remember is kind of the hierarchical nature of this, the fact that your updates are bidirectional. So what I'm doing here in terms of selecting and removing holdings, that is going to be reflected in holdings management and vice versa. So if you have a colleague that is particularly attached to EBSCO admin, they can continue to select and remove holdings in EBSCO admin, and those changes will perpetuate via the API connection into eHoldings as well. So you don't have to do it in both places. And then the last kind of big takeaway that I would have is the difference between those resource and title records. Title records are great for if you want to see kind of the availability of a certain title across the EBSCO knowledge base, which packages might include it. But the resource record is what you are going to add to your holdings, where your coverage statement is going to be. That is really kind of the pinnacle for your particular collection, where the title is the more generic record.